So we've looked at proteins, carbohydrates, fats, which ones we should choose and which ones we should really avoid. And one of the easiest ones to get wrong, because quite frankly we get led by the manufacturers, is the carbohydrates. So let's look at those in a little bit more depth. And Sarah has joined us to help us to do that. Hello, thank you. And what I'd like to just look at is how we look at a packet, how we choose a packet, and how we work out roughly whether that's something that we would want to choose. So would you normally have cereal or something for breakfast?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah? And if you don't mind, take something like Crunchy Nut cornflakes and just take an average, that's about the size of my bowls at home, and just let me know roughly how much you would have.
I'd say probably about there.
What would you think that contains in terms of sugar?
Oh, I'd say maybe 1 or 2 teaspoons, something like that.
Well, the amount of cereal that you've got there, which I have to say, when we get people to do this, is a fairly modest portion, is 154 grams.
Okay.
Any idea what the manufacturers would tell us is about the right portion? Do you think that looks about right?
That looks right to me, but I know on the packets, normally it says you should have, is it sort of a 30-gram serving?
Yeah. Most of us have no idea what 30 grams looks like, but it looks roughly, this is 28 grams. This is roughly what your cereal should be like in the morning. And that's not really going to satisfy anybody.
At all.
In terms of how much sugar that would contain, any idea how much sugar that would have?
Well, again, I'd say, well, it should be less than that one, but I don't know, maybe 2 teaspoons.
Yeah,
like
that portion would contain about 3 teaspoons of sugar.
Okay.
Any idea roughly how much would be in your portion?
I wouldn't hope it wouldn't be more than 3 teaspoons of sugar, but it probably is.
I put them in.
So it must be...
I'll tell you when to stop.
Okay.
Keep going. In that portion, there is 15 teaspoons of sugar.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
There is absolutely no way most of us would sit there and
10,
eat.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
We wouldn't eat that, would we?
No.
And it is really difficult because although it's been getting easier to read food labels because we have things on the front of the packet such as telling us how many calories, how much sugar, things like that. The manufacturer is telling you that's per 30 grams. And we do need, and most of us don't have any sense of how much cereal would weigh. So we do need to have a look at what a 30-gram serving is when we're working out whether that cereal is something that you would choose to eat, or would you maybe just choose to have chocolate for breakfast instead, which has probably got a lot less sugar. And the thing to look for on the packet is this little part here where it says the carbohydrates of which sugars. And that will tell you the percentage of sugar. So this is 35% sugar. And if you're looking at cereals in the supermarket, you can't take your scales and your sugar cubes, but you could just have a look at the percentage of sugar by looking at the per 100 grams. So if we have a look at something like yogurts, lots of people would choose a yogurt as a healthier alternative to another dessert at lunchtime or at dinner time. And if you were choosing something like this, roughly what do you think it would contain sugar-wise?
I'd say maybe 2 or 3 teaspoons.
Yeah, and some of them are as low as 4, a lot of them go up to about 6.
Okay.
So it's
Quite a lot, yeah.
It is, it's quite a hefty dose of sugar in there. Something like an apple juice. And apple juice is a good healthy drink.
Yeah.
How much would you think that would maybe have in terms of sugar?
I'd say maybe 4 or 5 teaspoons.
This one is actually about 9 teaspoons in that little bottle. Cola?
I know that's probably quite sugary, so maybe about 10.
Yeah, 9.
Oh.
But I've heard it goes up to 11, depending on which part of the world it's from. And something like a Lucozade, which a lot of people might have if they were just going to be going down the gym or something like that.
Again, maybe same as Coke, maybe about 10.
22.
Oh my goodness.
22 teaspoons of sugar in here. This is designed for people doing major sports, not 90 minutes at the gym.
Yeah.
And certainly not just at your desk because you're feeling a little bit low at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you might be having a better breakfast. You might be avoiding all of these types of drinks and then get home and think you're going to be fantastically healthy and do a stir fry, lots of vegetables, hopefully lots of your A-to-day and different colours, and decide to add a little bit of a sauce. So something like, this is a hoisin and garlic sauce which serves 2 people. These can be surprisingly high in sugar. If you looked at half of this sachet, then that would be about 3 teaspoons of sugar. And that's sugar that we don't often account for, because we might think that it's going to come in, quite rightly, things like the cola, but we don't necessarily realise that it comes in all sorts of different parts of our food. So we've spoken quite a lot about sugar, because sugar is probably one of the most important things to look out for when you're choosing which foods to buy. And getting the balance right of the protein and the carbohydrates is really important, because just making that one change will help you to feel good and to look good. And we're roughly talking about getting the ratios between those right for your body size and structure. And we can roughly work out how much of all these foods to have by looking at our hands, because our hands are related to our body structure and size. So if we have a look at your hands, if you just pop them on the plate for me, this plate is pretty much exactly right for your size, because your two hands would fit within the middle of that plate. And if we're looking at how much we should eat, we should roughly fill our palm with a protein-rich food. So that would be our meat, our fish, our beans, our pulses. The finger should only be really that much starchy carbohydrates. That'd be our bread, our pasta, our rice. And then the other hand, at least the other hand, would be full of vegetables and fruit. And about that ratio at your lunch and dinner will give you just the right amount of everything to give you vitamins, minerals, fibre, and also to give you enough protein and carbohydrate to give you energy throughout the day. Sound easy enough to do?
Yeah, sounds very simple.
So we've gone through which foods to eat, which foods to choose, and why they're good for your body. We've gone through the basics of nutrition in this video. There's going to be further videos through the year which give you more detail on things you need to know. But this is probably the most useful one to refer back to when reading the articles that come up, because on Business Minded Model there's going to be articles coming up throughout the year that build on the knowledge that we've gone through today.